Chris and Glen, welcome to MedTech Unboxed.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you guys on and talk about some of the work you're doing in the innovative medical device coatings. And we'll try to keep this quick to the point, about 20, 25 minutes, and get right into it. Now, what I want to do first is, Chris, if you can kind of walk us through some of the different platforms that you have. And I think I want to start with Polyzine, the kind of all-in-one in some regards, right? Coating for anti-thrombogenic, anti-inflammatory, and healing as well, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of our flagship technology. It's called Polyzine F or PZF. It's a polymer technology that we can use for coating medical devices. It's been around for 30 plus years commercially. So it's got a nice long history. And really the highlights are, it's very pure, nothing in it that's going to be harmful to a patient. It's highly elastic, which is great at preventing coating loss, which is kind of the main issue you see with most coatings on implantables. And it's mainly designed for blood contacting applications, so it's highly anti-thrombogenic. It also promotes healthy endothelialization and has some additional benefits, but maybe outside of blood contacting space in terms of it being anti-inflammatory.
You have a nice video on your site. I figured you could walk us through this. It's less than a minute. It's really great. If you can, I'll play it here, Chris, and if you can kind of just, like I said, walk us through it, that'd be great.
Yeah. So this is an image of the Cobra coronary stent that was commercialized with the PZF nano coating on it. So this device competed against the drug-eluting stents on the market in the coronary space, and kind of see the highlights there of it being very pure. This image here just kind of shows the mechanism of action when it's in contact with blood. So what you really want to do is get a nice single layer of healthy endothelial cells. That starts at the blood protein layer. So the PZF is great at interacting with the proteins in a positive way and promoting endothelialization. It's also great at thromboresistance, as well as the healing that we mentioned here. So you get 99% coverage of a stent in less than 14 days. And this is another study looking at the leakage of the endothelium, and it kind of highlights the benefits there of PZF compared to the competition.
Okay. When you refer to it as Nano-Thin or nano coating, I wanted to dig a little deeper into that and also talk about the barrier. I mean, what is the barrier?
Yeah, so the polymer is effective, at like a monolayer in thickness, essentially. We generally apply it at a thicker scale of about 30 to 50 nanometers to try and increase the durability. You're putting this on things like nitinol implants with huge shape changes in vivo and lots of flexibility that can be important. And yeah, it acts as a barrier in the body, kind of minimizing the reactions created by implants and making it more biocompatible. We apply it as a dip coating process. So it's a cleaning and then a plasma activation. There's then an adhesion promoter that binds to the surface of the implant and then binds to the final dip coated Polyzine F material. And then it's a simple air dry process. There's no heat for manufacturing wise. It's an easy add on to the assembly process for an implant.
Okay. And you said adhesion. It'll adhere or work with metals, plastics, textiles, whatever it might be.
Yeah, we really haven't found a material yet that we can't coat. PTFE, is probably going to be one of your hardest, most kind of inert materials that you see in med device. And we've shown success coating that as well. So I think it's really applicable for any device material.
Yeah, PTFE isn't friendly with with other materials as far as adhesion and bonding. So, yeah, if you can get a strong, durable bond with expanded PTFE, you're in the game. Okay.
Mhm.
Can you share a few of the different applications?
Yeah, so we kind of started off with this technology a number of years ago in the cardiovascular space with coronary stents. There were a few products in here in the US that were launched. So great for stents at preventing restenosis, um, and also in terms of enabling short-term dual antiplatelet therapy, which, is a big thing in the coronary stent space. We also expanded into the oncology, um, radiology space with the embolic microspheres, which are now owned by Siemens Varian.
Mm.
And we think it has an application in, basically any blood contacting situation. So vascular implants, um, structural heart devices, left ventricular assist devices, left atrial appendage devices, and then even in your kind of shorter term implants, like CVC and PICC lines, central venous ports. So anything that's going to touch the blood for more than just a few hours and might have a clinical issue related to thrombosis, the coating is perfect for.
Okay. It's interesting you kind of went the full spectrum from kind of more modern therapies, structural heart, to the kind of more commodity type PICC lines and things. So it's pretty versatile.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You also talked about some services that you can provide, coding services, hemocompatibility testing, and particulate testing. I wanted to ask you to walk through some of them as well. And we have a nice video to show when you're ready on the hemocompatibility testing.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'll start off with the coding service. I mean, that's, the main thing that we're providing for our customers. And, we can do anything from feasibility stage all the way to commercial. So preclinical, clinical, and, we have a class 7 clean room here, and we can pump out a pretty good number of devices on an annual basis that could support most products. Mm. In addition to the coding service, we do a lot of the testing for our customers on the hemocompatibility side. So anybody that's putting a coating on the device that's going to go in blood wants to see it, work compared to their uncoated device. So we have a human blood flow loop test setup that we do in house. And yeah, you can roll that video and kind of walk through how we do that testing.
Okay. And don't let me forget to share these two samples right after that.
Okay.
We'll talk about,
Yeah.
right? Okay. All right. I'll let you walk through this, Chris.
Yeah, so we use ourselves as donors, or we get other donors to come and we extract blood that's mixed with heparin to reduce the coagulation in these in vitro loops. Mm, We will then take the blood and you will fill it into the simulated loops that you can see here. They have a one-way check valve, and then they're mounted on that stage there, that's used to create the pulsatile blood flow that you would see in vivo. And we can adjust the flow rate according to the anatomy and the application. We'll then incubate, at body temp, 37.5 degrees C for about an hour. We can certainly do that longer. We find that's kind of the sweet spot, though, to the customer, kind of guide us there. After incubation, what you see here is us, draining the blood and then removing the implants. And we will, do macroscopic photos. We can do SEM photos. And then we do an actual quantification of the blood elements that were bound to that device. So what you saw there was us quantifying, things like platelet binding, protein binding, coagulation, like fibrin and fibrinogen, And then, yeah, we just present that data to the customer and kind of show them. You have a couple of samples here that came out of our blood flow loop recently, and a kind of a good indication of how well the coating performs. And, we have coated and uncoated devices. Um, you can show that have, this is a venous stent application. And so on the left there, you can see the coated implant with essentially no binding of the blood elements. And then, right,
Mhm.
a very well clotted stent.
Yeah, I'd say that's a compelling comparison.
Yeah.
Thanks for sending me these. Yeah, I mean, just looking at that tells the story. And thanks for that video. That's a pretty interesting service that you provide and all the data that you provide with it, right?
Yeah, so it's pretty comprehensive. I think it tells a good story, and we can do it quick in house. There's not these long lead times you get with some test labs. We can turn things around in a week or less and keep your project. And we also offer particulate testing. So another big aspect when you're putting a coating on your device is how well is it adhered, and essentially, are we going to pass the required particulate testing required by regulatory bodies? And so, we can do that at the feasibility level. We also provide, anatomical model validation and do, DV level testing for regulatory submissions as well.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, the particulates is a big deal now, right? I mean, you see the guidance from the FDA on particulates, even for hydrophilic coatings.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important, and can be, particulate can be a challenging one for sure.
Excellent. Thanks for walking us through those pretty compelling videos and the work that you do on hemocompatibility. And this is obviously a very compelling comparison. I want to move on to, some of the business aspect, and we'll bring Glenn into this conversation. Good to see you, Glenn.
Yeah, likewise. Fun conversation.
Yeah, always. There's some different services that you provide, from tech transfer to manufacturing support and license opportunities. I have a long list here. Coding partnerships. You want to kind of walk through some of those different um, business model opportunities?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, Steve, probably the best example of why we believe in Alta is because we started off as a customer actually of Alta, to Alta. So at Nidus Biomedical, we're a medical device incubator developing a lot of medical devices that are fitting unmet clinical needs and really pushing the boundaries of what we can do. And for one of the programs we were working on, we were looking for the world's greatest anti-thrombotic coating. And so we stumbled across Chris and his team over at Alta as we were evaluating, I think, 33 different coatings out there. And yeah, we landed on an Alta for being the perfect fit for our product for a number of reasons, right? It had gone through MDR and FDA approval. It had a huge bolus of clinical trial data in the coronary stent space that was really positive. It wasn't a drug device combo, so the regulatory burden to be able to apply this coating onto our product was a lot less than, say, like a heparin coating.
Yeah.
Um, and as Chris just mentioned, the durability of this coating compared to others out there, we were really amazed about how low the particulate level was generated. So it kind of checked all of those boxes. And because of that, such a positive experience, we ended up deciding to bring the portfolio in-house as one of our portfolio companies at the incubator.
Okay.
And it's been awesome to be able to work with Chris and his team down in Carlsbad and apply this technology to a whole host of other applications. We were working with companies in the neurovascular space, peripheral, cardiac. And so I think there's a huge application and a need for coatings like this, and you start to see it more and more out there. So in terms of those partnership opportunities, the last thing we want to do is make the business relationship an obstacle to be able to help patients out there. And so we're really flexible in the way that we work with customers. So I'm really excited about having royalty-free option, whereas some are more traditionalist and like the royalty approach to kind of keep the costs lower up front. So yeah, really flexible in the business side of things.
Glenn, you said something earlier that you kind of evaluated 30 different coating companies. I didn't even know there was that many, but there are, I believe you. And through that evaluation, you chose Alta. That's pretty impressive. I, again, didn't
Yeah.
realize there were so many.
Yeah. It was it was a big effort. It took us a couple of years and lots of dollars to be able to make that judgment call. And obviously we put our money where our mouth is, and now Alta is part of the family.
Great. You mentioned royalty free. That's been one of the challenges with coatings, right? Talk to us just a kind of an example of kind of how you do work with somebody on like a tech transfer. I mean, Chris did a good job about the services, but just like kind of a transferring that technology to a partner.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of different ways that we work with our customers. As I mentioned, it's really up to the customer of how they want that relationship to be established. The simplest one is basically on a per unit basis. We can be the coating supplier, service provider. So we would continue to coat the products at Alta. It would just be part of that supply chain process. If customers are interested in bringing that process in-house, whether it's the coating process itself or also the synthesis of the raw PZF material, we're happy to transfer both of those internally as well. It can work with the strategic or startup company to do that. And in which case we usually do it on a field of use by field of use basis. So if somebody was really interested in the particular application within the neurovascular space, we could either license or sell that field to them for that application.
Okay. Sounds like you're very flexible on how you can partner with somebody.
Yeah. Again, the last thing, you put in all this blood, sweat, and tears into the product, and you finally figure out how to make a really awesome product to help a lot of patients out there. The last thing we want to do is let the business get in the way of helping patients.
Yeah. Excellent. Guys, this is a real tight conversation. We covered a lot, and really appreciate your time. And it's a great platform. I look forward to following it further. We'll get this podcast out and hopefully generate some buzz from it.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Thanks for letting us tell us the story.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks, guys.